Hello class, my name is Natasha Evans and the topic I wanted to discuss this evening is about police brutality. Police brutality is the use of excessive and unnecessary force by police when dealing with civilians. The controversy surrounding police brutality isn't a new idea. These brutalities has been happening since way back in the 1800s, and it is still a current issue in today's news. We have had numerous amount of unarmed black males being killed by officers daily without officers being held accountable for their actions. One of the most recent cases about police brutality I wanted to discuss was the killing of the 26-year-old Bottom Jean, who was from Dallas, Texas. During the killing of Bottom Jean, he was in his own home, in his own comfort, bothering nobody. Innocent bystander was killed by a Dallas police officer by the name of Amber Geyer, who claimed she mistakenly entered the wrong apartment. She assumed that Mr. Jean was an intruder into her apartment. So without questions, without asking, without verifying which apartment complex she was in, she went in shooting twice, which was the killing of Mr. Jean. She shot him twice in the torso. This particular case is not the first, and I hate to say it. I hope it is the last, but it is one of the most bizarre confrontation again between an unarmed black male and a white officer. It just has to change. I believe that this is just getting completely out of hand. The policy that is regarding the use of force. The policy that is regarding the numerous amount of innocent lives being taken away is the policy that is described as the use of force. The use of force is for police officer, which it gives them the access to use unnecessary force when dealing with civilians. I researched 6 different type of forces that could be used before the police officers are forced to use the deadly use of force. One of the first one that I wanted to discuss is the officer presence and the demeanor. So that is just basic communications between the officer and the civilian. I believe today that a lot of officers are just now arresting people and without any communications of what's going on. They are basically going in with a gun out first. And that's how a lot of our black males and females are being killed without any questioning. They are definitely going in. They are definitely going in with gun out first and questions later. The second one is the verbal control. This is the type of force, police force, that could be used about when they're searching the car. You're doing a light control. You kind of persuading the civilian exactly what you need for them to do. So as long as the communication is there should not be a reason to pull out a gun unless that person is trying to harm you or another person. And I'm kind of reading off my iPad, reading different notes. So I'm kind of scrolling up and down to make sure I'm doing the correct questions. But one of the recommendations for this policy use of force I would recommend is to only use deadly force when there is an immediate threat to the officer's life or the life of another person. I do not believe that the deadly force should be used freely. And today it is being used freely. And a lot of officers is seeing in the media how other officers are not being held accountable for them. So they are going right behind the tracks and committing the same crimes because they know in the end there is that that position, or they in a position where they are going to always be right, or they're going to be protected. I don't agree with that, with the officers. Another recommendation that I would use for this use of force is, I think it should be a verbal warning before. If the civilian is not cooperating with what the officer is saying, then I feel like a weapon, or maybe a little more aggression in the verbal standpoint, be forced upon the civilian. I do not agree that a gun should be pulled out directly to that civilian. And I don't want to say that the use of deadly force is overall bad, because in some terms, sometimes we need it. It is some strengths as well as some weaknesses behind this deadly use of force for officer. I will say some of the strength is, when it is appropriate at the appropriate time, this policy can protect and de-escalate situations by removing the problem. It can as well as protect public, and it can protect the bystanders. It also, when using this policy correctly, it can keep our community safe from the harm and danger and the violence that's happening all around us. One of the weakness that I will discuss about this, the use of deadly forces, is the policy should include guidance on reporting. It should use investigation. It should use discipline. It should use accountability, and it also should use increased transparency by making a policy available online. So it should give, not only as the officer, but it should give the citizens the right to understand, if they don't cooperate with the officer's command, then this is something that could happen in return. I believe that social workers can advocate for the behalf of victims and the victim's family to ensure the safety and justice of the individual is being met. Being an African American, I'm all for supporting the families. I'm also supportive of what is right, no matter the race or the background of an individual. I believe everybody should have equal rights. I don't believe anybody that's innocent life should be taken away without questioning. I believe officers should be held accountable, no matter the situation, no matter the background. I believe that there should be more uses of the digital camera in the police officers' cars. Therefore, we can see the actual process of the civilian being arrested. So it can't be a he say, she say thing. I believe that social workers can also help by providing resources for serving for victims with PTSD that is caused by brutality of an officer. I believe social workers can hold support groups of the victims. And I also believe situations like this can really take a toll on the community as a whole. So it is very important, I believe, that social workers should advocate for support groups. Social workers should advocate for justice. Social workers should go the very far end of how they can help eliminate so much of police brutality in today's news. I believe that I answered all the questions. I see that I am now at 10 minutes, or I'm getting close to it. So I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation about police brutality and the policy of use of forces. Thank you, and you guys have a great night.